I'm Christopher Chambers. I'm the director and producer of A Fire Within.
Wow, this story blew me away, shocked me. It was horrific and then uplifting and cathartic as hell. How did you first hear about this story? When did this story come into your life? Because I know you've had a rich history in telling stories, but this one, how did this come to you?
So A Fire Within is a documentary about 3 women who are survivors of torture originally from Ethiopia. And after coming to America as refugees, one of the women moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And at her new job, she met the dishwasher. And the dishwasher said hello, and she felt something in the pit of her stomach, like something wasn't quite right. And she realized that his voice was the voice of the interrogator and torturer who had interrogated her 12 years earlier back in Ethiopia. And so that's the starting point for our documentary. And what it's about is about what happens next, which is that this woman and 2 other women who also were survivors of torture under this man came together and they made a vow to each other that they're going to try to fight to bring this man to justice. So their historic attempt to bring him to justice is our launching off point of the story of A Fire Within. And a lot of people ask me, like, wait, how are you doing this film? You know, I'm not Ethiopian, I'm not African, I'm not a woman, I'm not a survivor of torture, I'm not even the same generation as the women. And really, it's one of those things, it's like, do you choose a project or does like a project choose you? Because I was touring with my last film, Aram Aram, very small indie drama that connected with audiences, and I was lucky to go all the way to Australia with it. So I was on a flight back from Sydney with tons of time on my hands, nothing to do, and I went through those articles. You know, we all have these articles we download, we never read, they end up on our desktop, then end up in our trash, and I was going through those, and I honestly didn't even remember the day I downloaded this article. But it was about this story, about these 3 women, and my jaw just dropped. And then the more I read, the more my jaw dropped, and I thought, this is an incredible story. I'd love to watch a documentary on this, or maybe see a movie about it. And I looked for it, and it didn't exist. And I thought, well, I don't think this is my story to tell. Like, I don't have a connection with with this culture. This is not the right story for me to tell. And I set it aside, went to work on fundraising for my next feature film, and a year later, like, it just wouldn't let go of me. I couldn't stop thinking about it and thinking, like, why doesn't everyone in America know about the story? Why don't people all over the world know this story? So in 2017, I said, you know what? I just can't stop thinking about this story. I'm going to try to contact the women and ask them if they'll be willing just to speak with me. And that first step in 2017 has led us now to having A Fire Within, which we're touring around the world today.
Can we jump then to the title of the film?
Sure, yeah.
And I feel like obviously there's an allusion back to a fire within yourself, but there obviously is a much bigger meaning to that title. Can you share with us why that title?
Yeah, so I'm very bad at thinking up titles to my films. We've had several titles to this film that every time I would tell somebody the other titles, people would be like, good story, but title, not so much. And so I just did what I do with writing, is I just started free writing. I just started coming up with it, and I made a document with about 75 different, any word I thought of, because I just was at a loss. And then one day I realized, you know, what's so inspiring is this burning desire in these women and this courage that was inside of them. I mean, that's what I love, and that's what I think makes this universal. It's every generation of America. It is the story of America, fleeing some sort of adversity, coming to America to start your life over, to try to just move on. You go to your job, you try to pay rent, you try to put food on the table, and then making the world a better place, which is what these women really were fighting to do. So for me, it's like I wanted to find a message in the title that tells people and audience members, this is a story about someone who's fighting for something that's really worth fighting for. And if you go on a journey with us, hopefully you'll learn something, and ideally you'll be, if you're a survivor of abuse or torture, you may be empowered to see these women and see how they have thrived and survived despite all that's happened to them in their lives, none of which was their fault. And hopefully, if you're a young adult or a student, law student, college student, I hope you'll be inspired, because you'll see 3 people who came to America with no power, right? Immigrants, refugees, you don't have a lot of power in America. But they had a burning desire and a courage and a tenacity to never give up in their journey. And that's, to me, just blew me away. And they're my heroes. So I am excited at the opportunity to have more audience members get to see this story.
how important was it to be able to film in Atlanta and to know that Atlanta is becoming itself another huge hub? I mean, it's more than just certain shows. It feels like it's its own culture that is blowing up in Atlanta. How much fun was it to film there, and how important was it to film there?
Yeah, so we filmed across 10 cities across America, Canada, and in Ethiopia. And this film also consists of recreations, because, for example, when Edge first encounters the man who turns out to be her torturer, she didn't take an iPhone to work in 1989. She wasn't taking selfies, meeting my coworkers. There's no footage of these things. And I come from a filmmaking background, not a documentary background, but fiction. So I wanted to use the camera because, for me, I wanted to tell an emotional journey. The women's journey is not sterile. It's not a history lesson. It's an emotional roller coaster. And so I wanted to try to use the camera to capture their journey. And for us, it was really important to get their voice to be forward first. And we shot recreations of the sequence that took place in Atlanta and in Ethiopia. So I went alone to Ethiopia with my producer, Ermias Waldiamlak, who himself is a survivor of torture and a great filmmaker. And he navigated me through there, and we hired all of our crew locally, and we did casting there. And we went to, because the women were teenagers when they went through these horrible things. And so we actually did casting through Addis Ababa University drama program. And we had all these young students coming in, and scenes that I had written in English were then translated to Amharic, and with a translator we were doing these. And you know what the thing is that emotion is universal. Even if we didn't speak the same language, I could tell if a person, and there's some incredibly talented actors and actresses, I could tell, I'm like, they've got they've got the scene. I don't even know if they're using the right words, but they nailed the emotion of it. I feel like that scene is really happening in front of me. You're definitely in the scene now. So the recreations that were set in Atlanta, that was really critical, because there's for me, a very important scene that's very emotional, where there's a moment where the Ethiopian community comes out to support the women, and they sit behind the women in a wordless show of support. And so we were filming a recreation of this powerful symbolic moment of a whole community making a statement, a beautiful and powerful and important statement. And I thought, the usual way you do it, you go, well, just want people to look like that, so we'll just cast African Americans, right? That's a lot easier. Lots of African American actors. But I said, no, that's not how we're going to tell this film. We want to tell this film with authenticity, with integrity. We want to hit the emotional truth. So I reached out to the Ethiopian community and the Little Ethiopia Cultural Center, and I got in touch with this woman named Elsa Ademi, who's Ethiopian and lives in America, and she has the Habesha Film Association, and she came together with me, and she said, I'm going to help you to cast this role. You need 50 actors. And I said, I want all generations. I want old people. I want middle-aged. I want Ethiopian Americans. I want to actually have the real Ethiopian community come and be part of the film. And I was really nervous, because even though I have many friends now in the community, it was an impossible thing for someone like me to achieve on my own. And the morning of filming began. It was the most expensive day. As anybody knows, with the recreations, with filming a movie, basically, the more people you have, the price just starts going up. And all of a sudden, as we started the day, in through the doorway came 50 amazing, proud members of the Ethiopian community. And they came there and they sat in that scene to recreate this historic moment. And it was very powerful. And in the middle of filming, there was an old lady there, beautiful old lady. You could tell she was proud and beautiful and had a strength to her, and she was crying. And I thought, oh God, we should have taken a break. We're filming for too long. It's exhausting her, and she, so I stopped filming. I talked to her. I said, hey, do you need to take a break? And she grabbed my hand and she said, no, I lived in Ethiopia during this period. I am a survivor of what happened. I am a witness, and no one's told our story before. You're telling my story. And it just hit me, like I got the chills, and I almost started crying, because I just was so unprepared for how powerful this journey is and how powerful this story is to other people and other survivors of atrocities like torture. So to me, it really put me on a mission to say, we are doing something much bigger than this film. We're doing something for everyone who's a survivor of any kind of trauma, to show them an example of people overcoming them, the resilience that's inside of them.
Has this film deviated then what you think your future in filmmaking should be? Because it's been so, in many ways, cathartic, even being separated from the experience of torture.
Making a film is a really difficult experience, as I think it should be. I mean, it's not something easy to do, and this film has taken 4 years to make, and I really didn't know it was going to be such a hard journey to make. I knew it was vast in scope, because we were filming in America and filming in Africa on a low budget. It's just a little bit crazy, but it was the right way to do it. I wanted to shoot in the real locations as much as we could. And over those 4 years, I really got pushed to my limit in terms of stress. There were a lot of financial difficulties making this film, a lot of fundraising issues where money fell through last second. People needed to be paid. Things needed to be filmed. And a schedule was falling apart, you know. It's sort of the story of many indie films. And I think what I realized is deep down is I really believe in this story, no matter what it took to overcome, you know. And what I love about these women and this story is that they have the power by sharing their testimony to create empathy. So I might be a teenager in Illinois, or a college student in Arkansas, or a law student in California, and think I have nothing to do with survivors of torture from Ethiopia. But then when you see this movie, you realize and you connect with them. The camera creates empathy in a more powerful way than any other tool that is known to humanity. And so my goal, I realized, is to try to create and bridge cultures. And everybody here in America, I want every college student to see this and to realize how there's a connection between them and these women, because you fall in love with these women in this documentary. And not only that, it's also a connection between them and previous generations. I'm telling this as an American filmmaker because there's no other way I can. Something else I realized, like I only can see it from my own perspective. And in the end, we're telling what I believe is a profoundly American story from the very first generation who fled oppression to come to America, to each generation since then, from every different countries and different continents. This is the story of America, fleeing atrocities and fighting to make the world a better place.
Wow. Well, thank you for making the film. Thank you for bringing it to further light, more than just a story in a magazine for most of us. And I love the fact that you feel a calling to make it something that speaks to all Americans. I'm an immigrant, so it hits me in that way as well. My parents are from South Africa, so there's even that African feel towards this film that I was blown away by. Chris, thanks for making this film. Thanks for bringing it to light. And I can't wait to see what you have down the line. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If anybody, oftentimes after our screenings, people have a lot of questions. People seem to want to talk about it. And we're just beginning our rollout. So we're doing some more film festivals, then we're doing a theatrical tour, and then we'll be streaming. So if you want to see where we're going next, you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, at A Fire Within Doc. And also, if you have a question, if you saw the film and you want to ask me a question, just hit us up at A Fire Within Doc. Facebook, again, Instagram, and 100% I will get back to you because I appreciate anyone who makes time for this film, and I hope they enjoy it.
Wow. Thank you.